Welcome to Maldorma TV. I'm Tobias Alber, and this is episode number 3.
And I'm Magnus Alber. And in the previous episodes, we talked about our spiritual awakenings and how we use psychedelics for the very first time as a spiritual tool. We both wanted to see what it could bring to the table. And actually, for the very first experience, we had quite an amazing experience where we connected with Mother Nature, among other things. And we also discovered how music seemed to have a way to hypnotize your ego. And we will develop that further in this episode.
Yeah, and after we have came across that you could use music as a tool in the psychedelic experiences, I started trying to see if there's something else you can incorporate into the experience to try and enhance it. And I came across a mantra.
Yeah, a mantra is when you repeat a sentence over and over in your head, or a word, in your head or out loud, for that matter. And there are several purposes to this. The main purpose is both purposes are important. But one purpose is that when you repeat something in your head over and over again, other thoughts that are wandering freely will not occur as easily. So you're kind of focusing your mind in one direction. And the second purpose is that direction is most often God. You repeat the name of God or some kind of some connection to God in some way or another. And that will, in time, when you repeat it, create a connection to the spirit realm.
Yeah. It's basically the same thing as getting used to a song that you listen to on the radio. You have this song on the radio stuck in your head.
Yeah.
It's the same principle, but you have a connection to God instead.
Yeah, it's a spiritual practice. So when you get a Justin Bieber song repeating over, that's actually a spiritual practice right there.
Yeah, and Kanye West.
Yeah, but when the danger with getting a Justin Bieber song is that he will become your God, and you don't want that.
No, not at all. Or nor Kanye. But I came across a mantra by the Kyoto monks, and the track was called Yamataka. And the Yamataka, I didn't know it at the time I listened to it, but I came across it afterwards when I read about it, was that Yamataka is a god of death. So basically what you're doing when you listen to this track, Yamataka, is that you're confronting your fear of your own death, or you try to push yourself through the fear of death and see what is beyond there.
So this mantra isn't actually a pleasant practice.
It can be or it can't be. I mean, if you have fears of death, you will use this as a confrontation to those fears.
Yeah.
And the idea behind it is that you're supposed to let go of your fear of death because you're just this one being who's will exist in eternity.
Yeah.
So that's the practice of Yamataka. It's not for the. I don't think anyone should do it. It's quite powerful, and it can evoke quite negative experiences.
Well, you confront your fears basically, and that can be tough for some.
Yeah. So I started listening to this track unknowing of what it was about, but I started listening to it, and it has this 40 monks from the Tibetan monks who's chanting with this special technique. It's called throat chanting.
Yeah, very deep voices.
Yeah, it's really strange to listen to, but for some reason I felt obliged to listen to it, and I just put it on before I went to bed, and I kept having the track repeating all over again. So I fell asleep while the track was still running, and I could just remember that I was in the dream afterwards. I was fully conscious in the dream.
Yeah.
And in the dream, I just felt this enormous force trying to pull me. Like just trying to get a hold of my consciousness and pull it somewhere. And I remember that I just was struggling against this force in the dream. And eventually I woke up and I thought, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
And so that was a special experience. But I thought, well, there's something to it, obviously. I thought that it can't be a coincidence that this happened the night I was listening to this track. So I suggested that, I thought that maybe we should try this during a psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
And so we did.
Yeah, we did, and we put it on, and I remember it was quite powerful to listen to it. You definitely felt that something was happening.
Yeah.
You kind of tune into this strange energy field,
Mm.
but also I felt very uneasy.
Yeah, me too.
When we listened to it.
It wasn't bad, but it was weird.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Very weird.
Yeah. So we listened to this for half a minute to up to 1 minute, I think, or perhaps even more.
I think it was way more.
Okay, all right. So yeah, we kept repeating it, and then after a while, you suggested that we should change the track.
Yeah, I wanted to turn it off because it made me feel uneasy, as I said.
Yeah, and I fully agreed. So you suggested that we should listen to a different track, and you had recently just came across a track by.
Yeah,
Was
at that time I listened a lot to this musician from France called M83.
Mm.
He had done a lot of beautiful music, and at this point he had just released a new single called Star Waves, which is actually a soundtrack track to the movie Oblivion, the science fiction movie with Tom Cruise. Yeah. It's really powerful and beautiful. And I listened to it a lot at that time, and I felt I want to try to listen to this during one of our experiences. Since we had noticed that music is quite powerful when on mushrooms. And this song has a very... it starts off very slow and beautiful. Then it builds up gradually. And in the end explodes in this really powerful ending. Yeah. And I wanted to see what it would feel like to listen to it.
It's a really powerful cinematic track.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I just remember the moment when you changed from this Yamataka track and pressed play button on this on Star Waves.
Yeah.
You could just feel something instantly.
Instantly you could feel that something happened inside the room. Yeah. Something changed, and I could feel an energy in my body immediately, and it harmonized with the music. So when the music were building up, so was the energy in my body. And I remember looking at you, and you kind of looked back at me, and I nodded. No, we didn't talk, but both of us we were talking with our eyes. Do you feel this? Yeah, I feel it too. It was so strange, and something happened most definitely.
Yeah, I can just remember that exactly as you said it. When the music came on, you could just feel this wave sweeping over you, like this energy coming into the room and just building up, and then you get to the climax point where it just erupted.
Yeah, it was a kind of energy burst, but so we listened to it once and felt we need to play this once more.
Yeah, and we turned up the volume real loud as well, just to get the feeling behind it.
Yeah, and we kind of concentrated to the music, and it's so beautiful when you listen to music while on psychedelics. So you kind of get hypnotized if the music is beautiful. And this song really just sucked me into it, and my energy started building up. I could feel how I harmonized with it, with the music, and it felt like my soul started to vibrate in harmony to the music. And this was really amazing. And while the music was building up slowly, you felt how the energy was building up in your soul.
Yeah, it was like just a bubble waiting to burst. And when the moment came when it really gets powerful in the track, it just explodes. So did we. Yeah.
You can describe it when the music really, when it reached its climax, and the music exploded. Instantly, a flood of energy just flowed into us. Yeah, and this energy was so powerful. I can't describe it with words. It's so amazing. Yeah, and we will try to describe it as good as we can.
Yeah, there's no reference in the world which can explain the feeling that came over us at that time. But just to paint the picture, I was at one moment when we was playing this track, I was standing up. Yeah. And I was just, preparing myself for this eruption of music coming at me. And when this climax point just hit, I was standing on my feet and I fell over. Because this force of this thing was just too strong.
And when this energy came into us, we actually both screamed in euphoria.
Yeah.
Because it was so powerful. I just screamed out loud. I remember hearing you screaming as well.
Yeah.
And I didn't give a fuck because this was the most beautiful thing I have ever experienced.
Yeah.
It was a force that was, it was the basic force of the universe.
Yeah.
The force of God.
Mm.
And my mind expanded throughout the universe in an instant.
Yeah.
I was everything when this force came into me. And the amount of love that was inside of this force was indescribable.
Yeah.
It was a love so powerful that I cannot compare it to anything I have ever experienced. It was the love of God. And I also remember that I felt when this force flowed into me, I could feel how negative energy inside my body just went away.
Washed
And I
away,
felt
yeah.
so light. And I didn't even know I had this negative energy. I was in a good mood.
Yeah.
But it's negative energies that all of us are carrying and are so used to that we don't even notice it. And we carry it even though when we are happy. And this love just washed it all away, and I was so light. And this power was pure love. I knew it was the force of God. It's this primal force that creates the entire universe. That's what it was.
Yeah. And it was just streaming inside of us. And as you mentioned, I didn't know what happy was or what feeling good was before this.
No.
My reference of, okay, now I'm feeling good in the normal world, this was just beyond that.
It was
levels above
100,000 times greater.
Yeah. And as you said, this feeling of going from this being the one, the small fragmentation, just being yourself and just going in an instant, just exploding and being this whole universe.
Yeah.
That
it's hard to
feeling
handle.
itself.
And it happened so fast. It happened in an instant, and your mind expands throughout the universe in a fraction. And we just screamed because it was so fantastic.
Yeah.
And I also remember, and this is actually the most powerful feeling for me. I had read about spirituality. I had studied spirituality for 15 years.
Yeah.
And I believed in God. I believed in all of this. But this was so huge confirmation, because what I felt was that this state, this energy, it was God. There was no doubt. I could feel God.
Yeah.
And I was part of God.
Mm.
And I felt when this energy came into and when my mind expanded to the entire universe, and I was this force.
Yeah.
I knew that I had been here before. I knew that this was home.
Yeah.
And that was a very powerful experience. It was familiar. I could feel I have been this once before, but I have forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And now I'm back, and it was so great. And I instantly knew that God is real. Everything I studied, well, I don't know if everything, but at least God is real, and that's enough.
Yeah. And this is, for me, it was, since I didn't have this theoretical knowledge before this, I still had this doubt of what actually happened, even though I had this 1 week experience and the prior psychedelic experience. But in this moment, when that energy just came over me, the doubt was gone.
Yeah.
It was just there. I was touching it. I was being it as well.
Yeah, you became this, and you knew that this is our true nature. This huge force of energy and love and vastness, and it's indescribable when you experience it, and it's so wonderful. And then it harmonized with the music, as we said, and this was a very powerful song in there. Then it switched over to the next track on the playlist, which was Life by Ludovici Einaudi, which is a kind of classical piece, really beautiful.
And we basically, I think we have just been so mesmerized by the previous track that we just kept. I mean, we weren't present anymore.
No.
We weren't there to realize that there was some music playing at more. I mean, we didn't. So we just kept Spotify running.
Yeah, and the next track was, I almost thought it was more beautiful.
Yeah.
Because it's this piano and strings and oh my god. And it's also kind of have this starts off slow and then has to build up and kind of a crescendo. And I remember every time there was this breakout in the music, it felt actually like my soul had an orgasm. Not a sexual orgasm. It's not, but you could compare it to an orgasm, but 100,000 times stronger. You could feel your soul vibrating faster and then erupts in this enormous feeling of pleasure.
Yeah.
And so amazing. I remember, I don't know, when this experience started, I was sitting in the sofa. And later on, I was lying on the floor. I had no idea how I came there. I was lying on the floor and tears just were running down my face because I was so thankful for having this experience. I just remember thinking over and over, thank you, God for letting me experience this. Thank you, God.
Yeah.
Because it was so amazing.
Yeah. It was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And I mean, just to describe how awesome it was, I had this moment where during live when it also reaches this crescendo moment, this eruption of beauty, then I could just feel, I just started laughing out loud.
Yeah.
The most genuine laughter of the most genuine joy I've ever felt in that moment. I was just there, and I had a small twitch in my eye because I wear eye contacts.
Yeah.
And it was
contact lenses.
Yeah, contact lenses, and it was itching a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just threw it out in this moment because it was the only thing in the universe which wasn't perfect at that moment. So I just threw it out. Yeah. And then I was there. I mean, as you said, spiritual orgasm is the right word for it. It's
most definitely. And this experience kept on for, I don't know how long, for a few tracks at least.
Yeah.
We had this playlist that we had made with beautiful music. Start off with Starways, then Live, and I think a few other tracks with Ludovici and Audi as well.
Yeah.
And after a while, the experience kind of faded off, and we came back to our normal. And
I think we stopped. We just came to this point where
too much to handle.
This is too much. It was the most amazing thing, but I mean, it was at the same time really physical demanding and mentally demanding.
Yeah, most definitely, because you're not used to this. You can't handle it yet. But as I said, I felt that this is our true nature. I knew it, and I knew that this is where we come from, and this is where we're going back to eventually.
Yeah.
And that was also what I had read and studied about, but now I knew it from my own experience. And we talked about this experience afterwards and what it meant. And for me, it meant that I knew now I was a very strong believer in God because I had studied so much and felt that it was right. But now I knew. Yeah. I was from a believer to a knower. And that's very powerful.
For sure. For me, it was, I went from I wasn't a believer, but I was a non-believer.
Yeah.
And I turned into a believer on this one experience.
Within a few minutes.
Within a few minutes.
Within an instant, actually.
Yeah, of just exploding out in the universe.
Yeah.
Amazing experience.
Yeah, and we felt that we need to explore this further.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
For sure. And after this, I think it was just so obvious that we need to continue.
Yeah. We need to continue and see, I mean, this was only the beginning.
Yeah.
And I will talk a little bit about another experience that I had later on.
Yeah.
That I had with another person. You were not with me at this time, but another person was. We actually tried to, you and me tried to have this experience again, to force it.
Yeah.
We listened to Starways many more times, but we didn't break through this barrier, because that's what it feels like. The energy inside you start vibrating faster and faster, and you reach this kind of point when everything else opens up and this energy comes in. It's a kind of breakthrough experience.
Yeah, we basically we had 2 or 3 experiences afterwards where we were just trying to chase this
Yeah.
experience again. I mean, it had been, we were telling all our friends and family about, well, not that many, but those who we trusted, we talked about this
Yeah.
with, and we just try to get back there again, and
Yeah.
we couldn't, because the moment we put on the same tracks, we're listening to the same thing in the same room, in the same conditions, but you just had this thought in your head when the music started getting to
Yeah.
this climax point. You started, okay, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes, and
You get very
no.
strong expectations, and expectations becomes a hindrance.
Yeah.
That will not let you pass through, because the key here is to shut down your mind. That's when you have these kind of experiences. And enough of psychedelics will do that, but also meditation and things like that.
Yeah.
But what happened the first time when we broke through with Starwise was that we didn't expect anything. And the music was just so powerful, so we let ourselves be hypnotized by the music.
Right.
But the second time and the third time, we knew what could happen, so we couldn't stop thinking about it. So our minds were active.
Yeah.
And we didn't break through until a few tries later when, as I said, I was doing this with another person. And I was listening this time to Ludovico and now the song Life that we also listened to during that time, the second track on the playlist. And I broke through once again to that track this time. I was laying in my sofa and I felt my energy building up, and I managed to just focus on the feeling instead of thinking about it.
Right.
And I broke through another time. And it felt like, much like the first time, but it wasn't as strong. What happened this time was when I broke through, this flood of energy washed into me. But it wasn't as strong. So I didn't scream. It wasn't this euphoric experience. My mind didn't expand to the entire universe. And I could walk around inside my house and be in this mode, but it was a divine state of awareness without any doubt. But it was more in a normal level, so to speak. So I walked around and I could talk to the other person who didn't break through, by the way.
Yeah.
But I told him about what happened to me, and I walked around and I was just lying on my sofa enjoying this, because it was so beautiful to experience this again. And this time I could have been in this mode for hours upon hours, because it wasn't as intense.
Yeah.
So I think this kept on for 40 minutes or more. And then something happened, something new that was really powerful. I was lying in my sofa and just enjoying this when suddenly I heard a voice inside my head. And I felt the presence of 2 spiritual beings. And they said, "Hold on. We want to show you something. We want to show you something. Hold on."
Yeah.
And then I left my body.
All right.
And when they talk to me, this is very strange. They talk to me telepathically. And how that works is that it's your own thoughts that forms the voice.
Yeah.
So it's your normal thinking voice.
Yeah.
But you can feel that it's controlled by someone else. You know it. And you have no control over it.
Yeah.
And I could feel these beings. I could feel that there were 2 of them, but I couldn't see them. And they started talking to me, and they said, "We want to show you something. Hold on." And then I left my body and found myself in the spiritual world. And they were with me.
Yeah, and I think when these beings talk to you, because this is something we will discuss further in coming episodes as well, is that it's easy to say, if you're listening to this, that, well, this is just your thoughts and you're creating this yourself. But at the same time, the things that you are being told, the things that you're experiencing is so beyond what you can really think out in the normal conditions. So whatever it is, it's really powerful. It's beyond what we can experience in the normal
If I am
world.
hallucinating all of these things,
Yeah.
well, then should you worship myself, pretty much, because the things that I have been told and you have been told and shown are so amazing beyond what I could create in my normal state awareness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we will speak much more about the upcoming things, which are even more amazing.
Mm.
So, well, I don't think it's hallucination at all. I mean, if it was, how can I hallucinate such things that are so way beyond my frames of reference?
Yeah.
That's just
I think
irrational.
it's an accelerator towards the spiritual world. It's a tool that you can use
Yeah.
to get there.
Most definitely. And so I'll get back to my story now.
Yep.
These beings pulled me out of my body, and I found myself in the spiritual world, and I cannot retell what it looked like. It's just impossible.
Mm.
And you don't have a physical body. You're just this formless consciousness.
Yeah.
And what they showed me first was that they let me feel how it felt to be this force that we felt during Starways.
Okay.
This enormous basic power of the universe, the very power of God. And that power is so vast, it's impossible to imagine it without actual experience.
Yeah.
It's beyond description.
I think that's one of the issues with psychedelics experiences, that there's no reference. You can't describe it with language. You can't make a reference of the towards something that you experience in the everyday life. The experience that you get is just, it has to be experienced.
Yeah.
You can't understand it any other way.
We can retell it in the way we do, but it will only be a pale description of what really happened.
Yeah.
But they let me experience how it felt to be this force. Because the first times it more felt like it just flooded into you and you didn't have any control.
Yeah.
It just happened to you. But this time they let me be it, and I could feel how I could bend the time and space with my own will. I could feel that I was creating the entire universe.
Yeah.
And that I could change the entire universe after my own will.
Yeah.
But they didn't let me do anything because I would create havoc, because I'm not I'm not God in that sense. Well, at least not yet.
But you got the feeling of it.
I got the feeling, and they let me play around a little with it. So I remember thinking, I was just so blown away. I couldn't think. I remember thinking this when I felt this. Oh my God, what am I? What am I really?
Yeah.
Because I had read about that in my studies for the past 15 years. I knew that all of us are part of God, and we are evolving to be God in the future.
Right.
So I knew all of this, and I knew that basically I am God. I just don't know it yet. But when I experienced it, even though I knew it, I just felt, what the hell am I? Because when I felt what it was to be God, it was nothing I could ever have imagined.
Yeah.
So this experience was really cool. But after a while, they said, we want to show you one more thing. And this was the real treasure.
Yeah.
I left this state awareness where I was this power. And then they took me to another state awareness, which is the innermost core of God. He is this power, but he's also in the core of God is total stillness.
Yeah.
And it felt like when I was in this state of awareness, it was total bliss, it was total peace and harmony and serenity and love. It was most amazing feeling you can imagine. And it was totally still. And it was actually kind of darkness in a way, but not in a bad way. And I remember thinking, this is Nirvana.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is Nirvana. This is what all these monks are striving for lives, perhaps several lives. And now I'm here.
Yeah.
After 15 minutes ago, I was in my sofa. I just ate some mushrooms, for crying out loud. But of course, I didn't come here, by spiritual practice. I was visiting this, and by these beings took me here as a gift. But it wasn't a permanent state. But they let me experience this, and it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And then they took me back, and the experience was over.
Yeah. I have had a similar experience, or perhaps exactly the same experience.
Yeah.
Of-
Later on, yeah.
Yeah, later on it was jumping a little bit ahead of time here,
Yeah.
but I had this feeling of Nirvana as well. Throughout we'll probably describe this further in a coming episode, but
Yeah.
during that experience, that psychedelic experience, I had quite a rough start to the experience.
Yeah.
And I was at the point where I thought to myself, all right, this is enough.
Yeah.
I can't take it anymore. And then they just showed me Nirvana.
Yeah.
This like, all right, we're done with you. Here, have this. And I was just in this state of mind, as you mentioned, total peace, total silence, just enormous harmony.
Yeah.
And it's just, I couldn't think of anything. The whole experience before that was gone.
Yeah.
I didn't have a single thought of anything prior. I didn't have any single thought about anything in the future. I was just there enjoying this total peace.
And this experience is way more pleasant than the power.
Yeah.
Because this is just being.
Yeah.
And that's the true state of God, beingness.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing, and it's the most wonderful thing that you can experience, I think.
Yeah. So I was just sitting there and this being there for some time, and when I looked around me, I had a visual experience.
Okay.
It was darkness, but like a golden glow.
Yeah,
around me.
exactly the same thing. It's darkness with a golden glow.
Yeah.
And I actually read a book quite some time ago by David Icke when he used ayahuasca,
All right.
and he described exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Golden darkness
Yeah.
and total harmony.
Yeah. So it was just a small room there with this golden glow, and you're just there, and it's
It's
beyond words.
Yeah, it's beyond words, and I have only experienced once.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it is what the Buddhists call nirvana. I don't. It just felt like it when I was there. This is what the Buddhists mean when they talk about nirvana. I could be wrong, but that was what I was thinking and felt.
Yeah, and it was interesting because during that evening, after my nirvana, I think you had to make a phone call.
Okay.
So I stepped outside in nature.
Yeah.
And I was still a bit connected to this state of nirvana.
Yeah.
And I could feel the presence of nature
Okay.
was also not the same thing, but similar.
Yeah.
It was not in a state of nirvana, but the harmony in nature is similar to it.
And we had I had explanation to that quite recently, actually.
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk about that today, though.
All right. Yeah, so I just made a connection there with nature and nirvana. It's just the presence was mind-blowing. So I really got this evening as well, I got a nice connection with nature.
Nature is in a divine state, but they are kind of declining down into the physical level.
Yeah.
So they're not really up on the top. They're going down, and we are on our way up, but we are below the level where they are now.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about nirvana, and I think you have mentioned this to me before. You told me that once you reach nirvana, it's so beautiful, it's so peaceful, it's so amazing that you get stuck there. But actually, you could venture beyond nirvana.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that later, because Buddhists and Hindus say that nirvana is actually, it's a state of mind, but it's not self-awareness. It's not being God. It's being in God.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk more about that later, because you can attain this state of awareness before you reach self-realization.
Yeah.
Which I have learned later, not self-realization, but this fact that you can actually go into the nirvana state, if you want to call it that, with meditation or psychedelics, but it's not the same as becoming God, and that's the ultimate goal. So you need that's where we're going. Then when you are God, you can be here as well, but when you are there as God, you also know everything and control everything, and we're not there yet.
No. But I just think it's funny when when I had this experience of Nirvana.
Yeah.
I just made the realization that now I get why these monks are spending their lifetime
Yeah.
just reaching this thing.
It's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it. Even if you experience it once, it's worth it. I would take my whole lifetime just to get there again. It's that
Yeah.
amazing.
Most definitely. And
We'll see if I choose to do that now. I think I have some other things to do first, but
Yeah.
we'll see. So yeah, Nirvana experience in itself was just a mind-blowing experience,
yeah,
but it wasn't the last one we would receive.
far from it.
After this experience, I think after your experience,
Yeah.
this Nirvana experience came to me later.
Yeah.
We were still trying to get back to this experience of Starways and
Yeah.
Ludovico Einaudi and also Nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a possibility to get a little bit closer of understanding how it works.
Mm-hmm.
During one of our experiences, it was the same thing. My ego, my mind just started talking whenever something was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
I just started thinking too much, and at one point I just said, fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to enforce any experience whatsoever. I'm not gonna have any expectations. And that's when it happened.
Yeah.
I could just feel my body starting to vibrate the moment I just
Let
focused on the beauty of the music.
Yeah.
Just trying to be there in the present moment, just listening
Yeah.
instead of just listening to the voice in my head.
It's about letting go and
Yeah.
let things happen naturally. It happens naturally when you let go. It's actually easy, but it's at the same time can be hard in the beginning to let the mind go. But it helps if you learn how to meditate and things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that's usually helpful is if you're really, I find that it's easier to close down the mind if there's a track that you haven't listened to that much before.
Yeah.
If there's something new, that's what we have done. We have always tried to find new tracks to incorporate into the experience. Instead of going back to the same tracks all over again, we bring in new ones.
Yeah.
Beautiful music that just create different experiences.
Yeah. At least in the beginning. Now we have learned it, so it's quite easy.
Now it just happens.
It just happens, and I always listen to the same music now. But it's because we learned how to do this, and also been trained during our normal lives to meditate and things like that.
Yeah.
And because you get so motivated when you have this experience, and you realize, okay, if I learn these things that all these monks are talking about and holy men and women, you can actually achieve this without psychedelics, because psychedelics opens up these states of awareness temporarily. It actually explained this to me during our last experience. That what psychedelics do is that they kind of drug the ego. So it's easier to go past the ego, but it only lasts as long as the drug is in your body.
Okay, yeah.
So the ego, kind of numbs it out. And the more you take it, the easier it is. But you can do this by just learning how to go past your ego anyway. So when we have trained this, we have started we don't need as much psychedelics anymore. Quite low dosages will be enough for us these days.
Yeah.
Because when we feel the effects, we just start to meditate, and it happens. But in the beginning, we had to take up to 5 to 6 grams or something like that.
Now 1-2 grams, we get the experiences beyond the 5-6 grams.
Yeah.
So
And we have also started to have minor experiences without anything.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think I think Alan Watts described it in a good way, that psychedelics can be used in the same way as a scientist goes and use a microscope to look at things. So you go there and you look through the hole and you see it really close, and you get the understanding of it.
Yeah.
But then you go back and you work on what you have found.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the psychedelics. It's not a replacement of your normal everyday work that you should do. It's just a tool that you can use sometimes into zoom in and see the problems more.
Yeah.
details.
you can get information on how to do this
Yeah.
by your own, and you have to do it by your own in the end if you want the permanent state of this.
Yeah. So if you're all against taking psychedelics, that doesn't mean that you can't have these experiences. Just
No.
practice meditation, yoga,
Yeah.
whatever feels right for you. That's the thing you should go for.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But for us, it's been very helpful, and we have seen another thing. When you have experienced these things, you know
Yeah.
how it feels. So
Yeah.
when we meditate, you know what feelings to follow, and that's very. It's been very helpful for me, at least.
Yeah.
I want to say another thing about music also. For me, it's very obvious that some music in itself carries energies that are very helpful to harmonize with the divine realms.
Yeah.
And I'm not really talking about starways. They are hypnotizing because they're so beautiful,
Yeah.
and they work. Especially when they're new, then it's easier if you change. But then there are music that I can listen to over and over again. And I'm talking about music like Krishna Das.
Yeah.
He has a few tracks that I pretty much listen to every day. And every time I listen to a track, those tracks during psychedelic trips, something happens immediately.
Yeah.
And there's something to his music. He's this American guy that met with a Indian guru called Maharaji, and he's doing this chanting music, kirtan.
Yeah.
It's mantras, singing mantras.
Yeah.
And when he sings this, you can feel the presence of his guru Maharaji in the music.
Yeah.
He's singing from his heart, and that helps when you listen to it, because you can tune in to his state of awareness when you listen to it.
Yeah.
And also the music that what it's called, frequency music.
Yeah, binaural beats, frequency music. This usually really powerful as well on psychedelic experiences. We have this track. It's 528 hertz music that you put on, and you could just feel the vibration starting. And when you're in this psychedelic experience and you tune into this music, it's just really powerful.
Yeah, my most powerful experience happened when I listened to binaural beats.
Yeah, I have had experiences by listening to those in my normal state of mind, state of consciousness as well. So those are you can try using them. That's
music is powerful.
Yeah, because when you try to get a spiritual experience, it's very hard, at least in the beginning, to silence the mind. So it actually can be quite a good help to have this binaural beats, which you can just put on the headphones and just focus on the track instead. Yeah. So that helps.
And to be honest, in the beginning, it helps to take a stronger dose as well.
Yeah.
So we started off with a few grams, but what really made it kick off in the beginning was 5 to 6 grams, actually.
Yeah.
And that's quite strong. But then after some time, when I learned, we could go down again.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to talk about in the next episode. In the beginning, well, strong is how to go.
Yeah.
And we had this, we went too far at one time. So we will talk about that in the next episode about
I was want to bring up one more thing before
absolutely.
we close it down, but this when I was trying to get into this back to the starways. I just had this feeling of tapping into a vibration, and that's the same thing when we talk about these binaural beats. That's vibration happening, and when I was let go of my mind, I just tuned into the music, and it was what is it called? The guy that makes the music for Game of Thrones.
Raman Javri. Yeah. Something I can't pronounce it.
Yeah, it was
Game of Thrones soundtrack.
Yeah, so I was listening to that, and it was this Goodbye Brother is the track.
Yeah, beautiful.
Real powerful track.
Kind of dark.
Yeah, kind of dark, but at the same time beautiful.
Yeah.
And I just vibrated to the sound of the music. My whole body was just vibrating to the track, and I was just lying there, being in this vibration. My body was shaking to the music, and I was just feeling like I was in the music, like I was the track. And when we turned off the music, I was still sitting there shaking to
Yeah,
a
I remember
vibration.
that. You could stay in that vibrational state
Yeah.
for quite some time.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens when you get to the point of when you're at the end, you just start vibrating. It's
Yeah.
like your soul starts vibrating
Yeah.
more and more, and you get to the point, and when you're over this vibration, you just go faster and faster and
Yeah.
faster. Then you're there.
You reach this big breakthrough when
Yeah.
it vibrates so fast, and then just bam.
So there we get.
Go through.
Yeah, we're at the end, or just before reaching through.
Yeah.
So I was able to at least get the
very close.
understanding of how to get there.
Yeah, I also remember when we tried to break through after Starways. I was close a few times with Starways, vibrating faster and faster. But the faster I vibrated, my anticipation started to kick in, and then I went down in vibration again. But music is so powerful. It's so easy, and it's not that you need music. It's just when you use music, you can. When you concentrate on the music, you kind of harmonizes with the vibrations in the music. So it's a tool you can use. Yeah. But it's not. You can just sit down and meditate as well without music.
Yeah, it's all down to personal preference.
Yeah,
music has been
great for us.
The compass for us, at least.
Yeah, and we still use it just because it's so wonderful.
Yeah. So next episode is all about the bad experiences.
Yeah, going too far, basically.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if we're gonna get into all that. So just be sure to look forward to the next episode where we will talk about bad experiences.
Yeah, and then after that we will go on to describe. This is only the beginning of our spiritual journey. I mean, we have experienced so much fantastic stuff that we will tell you about later on.
For sure.
So stay with us.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, bad experiences coming up in episode 4. But if you want to keep a lookout on that, go to Maldorma.com, where you can find more of our content. You can find our books. Your book, The Illusion, is released now.
Yeah, my book, The Illusion, is out. And it's about the second part of the book. I describe most of our experiences, the major ones at least. Yeah. Except for the ones that have taken place after the book was finished. And then I also describe the basic structure of the spiritual world, how it works, the spiritual principles that our reality lays upon. Yeah. That's the first part of the book. So it's called Illusion, a personal journey towards spiritual awakening. And then also look out for Tobias' upcoming book, Stepping into the Unknown.
Yeah. Still no release date, but we'll see. Yeah. Hopefully somewhere around after the summer, we'll see when it's done. It's basically my experiences leading up to the psychedelic experiences, and as well all the psychedelic experiences that I have had, and experiences without psychedelics afterwards as well. And I just give my interpretation of everything that has happened. Yeah. So be sure to pick them up.
Yeah.
But I think that's it for this episode. So be sure to stick around for the next one. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.